Jackson Reese stood in the middle of the noisy market on Varela Prime, a large trade station floating near the edge of the Alara expanse. Bright lights blinked from stalls, each run by aliens of different species. The air was filled with the smells of strange spices, engine oil, and the sound of voices speaking dozens of languages. Jackson had been here for 3 months, working as a freelance technician. He repaired old Terran machines and sometimes helped aliens fix things they barely understood. His tools hung from his belt, and grease stained the sleeves of his jacket. Life was simple, now quiet. Away from war, he used to be a soldier, a good one. But after the last campaign, he had enough. So he came here to live in peace, fix machines, and maybe, just maybe, feel normal again, today. Like most days, he was looking for a rare capacitor chip for a downed Terran cargo drone. He walked through the rows of stalls, searching. Then he saw her. Tall, armored, and completely still, the Chiron stood like a statue beside a weapons stall. Her armor was sleek and polished, dark gray with a blue shimmer. Her helmet was clipped to her belt, revealing a face that looked both fierce and calm. Smooth dark skin, high cheekbones, and sharp yellow eyes that watched everything. She was beautiful in a dangerous way, like a blade carefully placed on a velvet cloth. Most people avoided the Chirons. They were known for being strict, cold, and highly disciplined. Tlani, that was her name, Lieutenant Tlani of the Chiron Guard. She wasn't just any soldier. She was famous on the station for taking down a gang of smugglers without firing a shot. No one dared joke around her. No one spoke to her casually. But Jackson wasn't most people. He stepped up to the stall, glancing at a few metal pieces laid out in neat rows. Tlani reached for a tool, a small torque driver, and handed it to the alien merchant. The merchant didn't thank her, just nodded. Then she stepped back into silence. Jackson noticed her fingers were careful and precise, curious. He looked up and said with a half smile, "You're really sweet with those tools." He didn't think about it. It was just a casual human phrase, something kind, something light. He meant it as a compliment, like he would say to anyone skilled. But everything changed in a second. Tlani froze. Her golden eyes locked onto his. Her body went completely still, as if someone had paused time. The market around them kept moving. People walked, talked, bargained, but here, in this little space between them, silence fell. Jackson blinked. He started. Tlani's voice was soft, nearly a whisper. "Say it again." "What?" "That word," she said slowly, her voice steady but quiet. "You call me sweet. What does it mean?" Now others were looking. A few nearby aliens paused to watch. Even the merchant raised his brow ridges in surprise. Jackson scratched the back of his neck. "It's just a human word. A nice one. It means you're kind, gentle, or that you did something in a way that's careful, thoughtful." Tlani stared at him. Something in her face shifted. Her cheeks, usually a pale violet, turned slightly pink. She was blushing. Jackson had seen many strange things in his life: alien battleships, plasma storms, wormholes, but a Chiron blushing. That was new. "I see," she said finally, voice unsure. Then she did something no one expected. She smiled. Just slightly. Just enough for the corner of her mouth to curve up. Then she turned and walked away, her boots tapping softly on the metal floor. Jackson stood there, confused. The merchant leaned in and whispered, "You shouldn't use that word with her, human." "Why?" "To Chirons, softness is private. It's rare, calling a soldier like her sweet. That's almost romantic." Jackson's eyes widened. "Wait, what? No, it wasn't like that. I was just being nice." The merchant chuckled. "Be careful. You may have just touched a place no one else has." Later that evening, Jackson sat on a metal bench outside his workshop. The station lights flickered slightly as the power grid shifted. He sipped recycled water and thought about what happened. Why did she react like that? He replayed the moment in his mind, her face, her eyes, the pause, the way she had whispered, "Say it again." He didn't know if it was dangerous or something else. That night, as he closed the shutters of his workshop, a small folded note slid under the door. He opened it. In neat, careful script were 3 words. Say it again. And nothing else? Jackson stared at the paper. This was going to get interesting. The next morning, Jackson Reese opened his workshop early. He couldn't stop thinking about the note. It had only 3 words. Say it again. He had read it 5 times before going to bed. He still wasn't sure what to make of it. Was it a joke, a threat, or something else? He worked on an old Terran plasma core, trying to distract himself, but his hands moved slower than usual, and his eyes kept drifting to the door. A strange tension filled his chest, not fear, but something he couldn't name. By midday, he had almost convinced himself nothing would happen. Then the door opened. Talani stepped inside, silent and calm as always. She wore the same armor, polished and strong, but today her helmet was on. She took it off slowly and placed it on the nearby table. Jackson stood up, wiping his hands. Hey, greetings, Jackson Reese, she said formally. He gave a short laugh. You don't have to say my full name every time, you know. She tilted her head slightly. Chiron respect is shown by full address. Fair enough, he said. So, you came about the note? Talani nodded. Yes, she walked slowly around the room, looking at the parts and tools. Her movements were controlled, almost to perfect. Jackson realized she was nervous, though she didn't show it like a human would. After a pause, she turned to him. You used a word yesterday, a human word. He nodded. Yeah, I called you sweet. It just slipped out. I didn't mean anything weird by it. I know, she said. I asked about it. You did. And I explained, yes. But I don't understand why. It made me feel something. Jackson raised an eyebrow. Feel what? Talani hesitated. Then, in a soft voice, she said, warm, strange, like my center was touched. He didn't laugh. He didn't make fun of her. He just nodded. That's kind of what sweet does, I guess. It's a small word, but it means something nice. Personal. In Chiron culture, she began, we do not use such words. We are trained from childhood to be precise, efficient, and strong. Feelings are considered distractions. Sounds hard, Jackson said. It is useful, she replied. But now I wonder if we have lost something important. They sat down at a metal table in the workshop. Talani removed a small data pad and slid it across the surface. This is my language file, she said. I want to understand your words, not just the meanings, the feelings. Jackson blinked. You want me to teach you human expressions? Yes, especially emotional ones. He chuckled. Well, I never thought I'd be teaching a Chiron warrior how to say cute or adorable. Talani frowned slightly. Those are different from sweet. He smiled. Oh, we have a whole library of soft words. Each one means something just a little different. She stared at him, curious. This is normal for your kind, very. He said, we don't always show strength with silence, sometimes. Being kind is how we show power too. Talani leaned forward. How can softness be power? Jackson thought for a moment. Because when you're kind, when you're gentle, you're choosing it, even when you could be cruel. That's real strength. Talani was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. I see, it is a choice. Just then, the door burst open. A young alien, short, gray-skinned, with thin antennae ran in, shouting in a panicked voice. Emergency, fire in the underdeck, fuel lines breached, systems failing. Jackson jumped to his feet. I'll get my tools. Talani was already moving. Where? Deck 9, service tunnels, the alien said. Talani and Jackson grabbed their gear and rushed through the corridor. As they moved, station lights flickered and alarms echoed overhead. Smoke filled parts of the hallways. Civilians were being evacuated. They reached the underdeck. Flames flickered from cracked pipes, and thick smoke made it hard to see. The safety systems had failed. Jackson dropped to his knees beside a control panel. If we don't shut this down, the fire's going to hit the main reactor. Talani drew her pulse blade and cut through a jam valve with ease. Tell me what to do. He guided her while working fast, rerouting power, sealing off vents, and restoring safety seals. She followed every word, never hesitating. Working side by side, They stopped the fire in minutes as the flames faded and the alarms quieted. Station guards arrived. They found Jackson and Tlani standing in the middle of the wreckage, covered in soot. One of the guards stared. "You two saved the underdeck." Jackson nodded, breathing heavily. "Teamwork." Tlani turned to him. "You were brave, fast, clever." He smiled. "You weren't so bad yourself." She blinked, then asked quietly, "Was that praise?" "Yes." She looked away, but a small smile touched her lips. That evening, back in the workshop, Jackson handed her a small human book about Earth idioms. "If you want to understand more," he said, "this is a good place to start." She took it gently, holding it like it was important. Before leaving, she turned to him. "I felt strong today, but also something else." "What was it?" She looked into his eyes. "You call me sweet again, but with your actions." Jackson chuckled. "Then I'll say it out loud, just so it's clear." He leaned forward slightly and said, with a warm grin, "You're sweet, Tlani." She didn't blush this time, but she did whisper again, "Say it again." 2 days had passed since Jackson and Tlani stopped the fire in the underdeck. The story spread fast across Varela Prime, a human and a Chiron saving the reactor together. It was all over the comm channels. Some called it brave, others called it suspicious. For Jackson, things felt mostly the same. He still worked in his small repair shop, fixing broken drones and ancient ship parts. But more aliens stopped to look through his window now. Some just stared. Others whispered to each other. He didn't care much for attention, but he was more concerned about something else. Tlani hadn't returned. She hadn't sent a message. No note, no visit. He told himself not to worry. She was probably busy. She was a soldier, after all. She had duties, orders, maybe even reports to write about the fire incident. But in truth, he missed her. That evening, he sat in his shop, the lights low, going over a cracked energy converter. The door buzzed open. It wasn't Tlani. A short, armored figure stepped in. A Chiron same military colors as Tlani's unit. "You're Jackson Reese," the soldier said. Jackson stood up. "Yeah, can I help you?" "You are ordered to report to Dock Bay 9 immediately." "Why? What's going on?" "No questions. Come now." Jackson grabbed his jacket and tools, heart beating faster. Something felt wrong. When he reached Dock Bay 9, the station lights were dimmer. A group of Chiron guards stood outside a sealed section. An engineer was arguing with one of them. "I told you, the tunnel sensors dropped an hour ago. If it's not a system fault, it could be a breach, maybe even an incursion." Jackson stepped forward. "What happened?" One of the guards pointed. "Power loss and signal blackout in the maintenance shafts below this deck. We sent the squads in. Only one returned. Tlani's team didn't." Jackson felt a cold knot in his chest. "Then what are we waiting for?" He said quickly, "We need to go down there." The guard shook his head. "We've called reinforcements. Protocol says to wait." Jackson stared at him. "You're going to wait while she might be dying down there?" No one answered. He turned, already moving toward the emergency ladder. The lower levels were pitch dark. Only the blinking red lights from his portable scanner lit the way. Jackson moved fast but carefully. The deeper he went, the more damage he saw: burned walls, cut wires, strange marks on the floors. It didn't look like a fire. It looked like sabotage. He heard something up ahead. A faint hum, a soft cough. He turned a corner, and there she was. Tlani sat with her back against the wall, holding her side. Part of her armor was melted. One of her arms was badly bruised, but her eyes were alert. "Jackson?" she said, surprised. He knelt beside her immediately. "You're hurt." "A little. I stopped the breach, but one of them got close with an energy blade." "One of who?" She looked at him seriously. "Solari. Not smuggler soldiers." This was an attack. Jackson helped her up. "We need to get out of here now." They moved together through the dark corridor. Tlani limped, but her steps were strong. Jackson supported her with one arm and used his other hand to scan for the fastest path out. As they walked, she looked up at him. "You came alone," she said softly. "Yeah." "Why?" He paused. "Because you were down here." She was quiet. For a moment, then she whispered, "You risked yourself for me." "Of course I did," he said. "You think I'd let you disappear after calling you sweet twice, even in the darkness?" He could tell she smiled. They reached the surface just as a Chiron rescue team was arriving. The guards were surprised. Medics rushed forward. But Tlani raised a hand. "I can walk." She stayed by Jackson's side. Later, after being checked by medical, she visited his workshop again. Her arm was wrapped, and a new set of armor plates covered her wounded side. "You disobeyed orders," she told him, standing in the doorway. He shrugged. "Wasn't my order to follow." "You acted without permission." "Yeah, I do that sometimes." She stepped closer. "That is very human." He looked at her. "Is that a compliment or an insult?" Tlani thought for a moment. "It is sweet," Jackson grinned. "So now you're using the word. I've been studying. I understand it better now." "Yeah, it means you care," she said softly. "It means you choose to protect not because you have to, but because you want to." He nodded. "That's the idea." She looked around his workshop, then sat at the same table where they had first talked. She pulled a small device from her belt and placed it between them. "It is a Chiron voice log," she said. "I recorded my feelings after the fire, my confusion, my curiosity, about you, about the word." Jackson looked surprised. "You kept a log?" "Yes, I was told it was improper. That emotional log's weakened. Clarity, and you made one anyway." She nodded. "Because I wanted to remember." He leaned back in his chair, staring at her with a thoughtful smile. "You know," he said slowly. "You're really—" She raised a hand, stopping him gently. "Let me say it first." She leaned forward. Voice soft. "You're sweet, Jackson." "Reese," his smile widened. "Say it again." She did. And this time, she didn't whisper. The days following the attack in the underdeck brought a storm of tension to Varela Prime. Word spread fast. A human and a Chiron warrior had worked together, saving lives. For some, it was a symbol of hope. For others, a threat. Tlani's superiors watched her closely. Her unexpected closeness with a human broke many unspoken rules. She was called in for questioning more than once. They warned her against further contact with Jackson Reese. "You risk your career and our people's trust by associating with him," her commander said. Voice sharp, Tlani met his gaze without fear. "Jackson helped save the station. His skills and his kindness saved lives." Her commander's face darkened. "Chirons do not rely on softness. That is human weakness." Tlani felt a fire inside her. "Softness is not weakness. It can be strength. It is a choice." The commander shook his head. "You must end this connection." But Tlani did not answer. Meanwhile, Jackson faced suspicion from the humans and aliens on the station. Some questioned if his loyalty had shifted. Others worried about the consequences of fraternizing with the Chiron guard at the market. He overheard whispers. "Why trust the Chiron? They're cold and ruthless. He's playing a dangerous game. Chirons don't forgive easily." Jackson ignored the voices. He was used to being the outsider. Then one afternoon, as he fixed a broken drone, a message arrived on his comlink. It was an official order. "Evacuate the station. Leave immediately." No explanation. He frowned. He knew trouble was coming. That night, Jackson packed his tools and gear. The station felt tense. More guards, more patrols. People whispered about a possible attack from the Zolari, the enemy faction that had tried to sabotage the station before. Just as he was about to leave, his door slid open. Tlani stood there, helmet in hand, eyes serious. "They want you off the station," she said quietly. "For your safety." Jackson frowned. "I'm not leaving without you." She looked at him. "I am a soldier. I must follow orders." "But you're not leaving me," he said. T single quotes. Tlani hesitated. "Come with me," she said after a long pause. Jackson blinked. "What? We can leave together. I will take you off this station, away from their control, away from the Zolari's reach." Jackson's heart raced. "You're serious?" She nodded. They moved quickly through shadowed corridors, avoiding patrols. Tlani's knowledge of the station's hidden passages was perfect. She led him to an old cargo ship docked in a forgotten hangar. It's small, But fast, she said. Jackson smiled. I like fast. The ship lifted off smoothly, slipping through the station's atmosphere and into open space. For hours, they sat side by side, the stars outside shining cold and distant. Talani finally spoke. Why did you call me sweet the first time? Jackson thought for a moment. I guess it was just seeing you not as a soldier, but as someone kind, someone gentle in a hard place. She studied him. In Chiron culture, such words are dangerous. They can weaken a warrior's resolve, but they don't weaken you, he said firmly. They make you stronger. Talani smiled. I want to believe that. Jackson looked at her with a warmth he rarely showed. I promise. It's true. Their destination was a remote human colony on a small, quiet planet, one of the last places where old Terran and Chiron history was kept. Talani had heard of an ancient archive there, a place where long-lost records might reveal more about their people's past. As the ship approached the planet, Jackson checked the old maps. This place is almost forgotten. Exactly why it's safe, Talani said. The colony welcomed them cautiously. Old Terran machines hummed softly in the background. There were few people, but all were experts in history and technology. Jackson and Talani found the archive, a large building covered in dust and silence inside. They scanned ancient files, holo recordings, and digital logs. Talani's voice was quiet. Our ancestors were different. They shared emotions openly, celebrated kindness and softness. Jackson nodded. Sounds like you've been missing out. She smiled faintly. Perhaps, that night, under the twin moons of the colony, Jackson and Talani sat outside the archive. We can change things, Jackson said. How? She asked. By showing them that strength and kindness can live together. Talani looked at the stars. It is risky. The Chiron High Command will not like this. Maybe not, Jackson said. But the young ones will listen. They want change. She leaned against him. I'm glad you called me sweet. He smiled. And I'll say it again, as many times as you want. The future was uncertain. But for the first time, hope felt real. Jackson Reese and Lieutenant Talani stood inside the ancient archive's dimly lit hall. The soft hum of old machinery filled the silence as holographic records flickered around them. Like ghostly whispers of the past, Talani's eyes scanned the information with growing wonder. Our people were not always so closed, she said quietly. They spoke of trust, softness, and care. Jackson nodded. Sounds like a side of your culture long forgotten. They pulled up a series of ancient logs and text translations. Difficult but clear enough. The archive revealed something important. The Chiron ancestors had a tradition of emotional openness, sharing feelings as a sign of strength, not weakness. It was part of their early history before centuries of war hardened them. This changes everything. Talani whispered, We were taught that emotion is a weakness, but it was once a source of power. Jackson smiled. Humanity is not perfect, but we know strength can come from kindness. It's good to hear your people had that too. As they studied, an alarm suddenly blared through the archive. The colony's security system flashed red warnings. Solari ships, a technician shouted. They're entering orbit. Jackson cursed under his breath. They found us. Talani's eyes sharpened. They want to destroy this place and erase the truth. Jackson grabbed his gear. We have to defend the archive. If this knowledge is lost, it's gone forever. The Zolari had attacked before. Ruthless soldiers bent on control and destruction outside. The sky darkened as the enemy ships hovered, casting shadows over the colony. Jackson and Talani rallied the colonists and a small group of Chiron who had secretly joined them. They prepared defenses using old Terran technology and Chiron precision. The battle began with a sudden blast. The colony shook. Explosions rocked the ground. Jackson's mind raced as he directed energy shields and repair teams. Talani led the fighters with fierce determination, moving through the chaos like a blade. Despite being outnumbered, their combined efforts slowed the Zolari advance. During a fierce firefight, Jackson found himself face-to-face with a Zolari. Commander, the alien snarled, blade raised. Talani appeared beside Jackson, striking the enemy down with swift, controlled precision. Jackson exhaled deeply. Thanks. Talani nodded. We fight best together. As the battle raged, a human soldier called out from a communications post. They're retreating. The shields held. Jackson and Talani exchanged tired but relieved looks. Later, as the dust settled, the colony gathered to assess the damage. We saved more than our lives today. Talani told the group. We saved our history, our truth. Jackson smiled. And we proved that kindness and strength can win. The archive was safe, but the fight for understanding had just begun. The battle on the colony had ended, but the consequences were just beginning. News of the Zolari attack and the defense led by Jackson Reese and Lieutenant Talani spread quickly across the galaxy. Some hailed it as a miracle, a human and a Chiron fighting side by side and winning. Others whispered warnings, uneasy about the alliance between species. Back on Varela Prime, the Chiron High Command summoned Talani for a formal hearing. The room was cold, filled with stern faces. Talani, the lead commander, said sharply, "You have disobeyed direct orders, endangered our people, and allied with a human." Talani stood tall. "I acted to protect our people and preserve our history. Jackson Reese is not just a human, he is a friend and ally." The room murmured. The commander's voice grew louder. "Your actions threaten Chiron traditions. You must renounce this softness before it spreads." Talani's yellow eyes burned. "I will not." She turned and left, her resolve unshaken. Meanwhile, Jackson prepared to leave the colony. The peaceful planet had been a refuge, but his mission was not over. Before boarding his ship, Talani found him. "Jackson," she said quietly, "I am to become the first Chiron liaison to Earth, to bridge the gap between our peoples." Jackson smiled. "That's a big step. It is necessary. We must learn from each other." He took her hand gently. "You showed the galaxy that strength and kindness can be won." Talani looked at him, eyes soft. "Say it again, human." Jackson grinned. "You're sweet, Talani, always." She laughed, the sound light and free. The announcement of Talani's new role was broadcast across many systems. Young Chirons, inspired by her courage, began to question old traditions. They embraced a new hope, a future where emotions were not a weakness, but a source of strength. Jackson's name became known not just as a mechanic or soldier, but as a symbol of change. He spoke at forums and gatherings, telling stories of cooperation and kindness. One evening, as the twin suns set over Earth's capital, Jackson stood with Talani at his side. The galaxy was watching. He looked at her and said softly, "You're sweet." She smiled and whispered back, "Say it again." Jackson's voice was clear, carrying hope for all. "You're sweet." And in that moment, humanity and the Chiron began a new chapter, one written with courage, kindness, and the simple power of a word.